Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stronger Live, a version of the Stronger newsletter with myself, Tatiana Kolavu. This month, we talked a lot about leveling up your communication skills with practice, practice, practice. If you have been in sport in the past, when you were younger, if you've ever played an instrument or you have been on stage for theater, you know very well that it's absolutely impossible to hit your performance out of the ballpark or do very well without having practiced it. You not only need to think about it, you need to see yourself there. You need to say the words again and again. And quite often, if there is dialogue involved, you need to ask a friend to help you as you prepare in what we call role plays. So this month in Stronger, we talked about role plays and scenarios that would help you prepare your communication skills, whether that was a performance evaluation you were giving, whether that was a difficult conversation, something that involved conflict, or maybe it was preparing for a question and answer session at the end of a presentation. There's so many scenarios. So I'm really excited to be able to dig in and roll up our sleeves and look at some tools that can help you and I be better. And as you're coming into the live sessions today, please tell us where you're coming in from. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Thank you so much, Marley. Good to see you again. And thanks for all your following and comments. And today we are going to show you a few tools. We're going to share with you and explain and really show how they work. And hopefully you will have access to them and you can use them as well. Before we get started, I wanted to know, just to get a sense of where are you using or you would be using role playing or practicing with your communication. In the newsletter, we talked about greetings, San Francisco. In the newsletter, we talked about all the different scenarios. And then I also wrote about what you should be thinking if someone, for example, is watching me right now do this session live. In order to get better feedback, I wouldn't ask Shelby to say, how did it go? And she would probably say, it was great. But if I say I was trying to engage our learners, I was trying to make sure everyone had a voice, I need to ask more specific questions. So as you continue to come onto the platform, I would like for you to tell us what you would use role playing for in expanding your communication skills as you think of your workplace or everyday work. Today with us, I'm really excited. We've only invited Varun with us one other time, is Varun Puri. He's the CEO of Yoodli.ai. And let's bring Varun in because he is so full of energy and fantastic to always be with us. And Varun, when we first met, I'm going to read this out because it's so sweet. It was January of 2022, 3 years ago. Hi, Tatiana. Great to meet you. By means of intro, I'm building AI to help people with public speaking. And you sent me a little video. I'm a big fan of your LinkedIn course. Wanted to see if you're willing to test it out with your students. 3 years later, we didn't really realize, we didn't comprehend how important and how, I would say, influential AI would be in our everyday life. Varun, welcome.
Tatiana, thank you for having me. I cringed so many times as you read out my message, but I guess that's what the Yoodli and the startup journey has been about.
Yes. You know, what was inspiring for me always, you are originally from India. English was one of the languages you grew up with. And you told me you created an AI tool to help people who didn't have English as their native language, right?
Yeah, my dream behind Yoodli is to help people around the world, especially kids in India, speak with confidence. We didn't learn public speaking or communication skills or playing the game growing up. And I think so many of us miss out on opportunities as a result of that. If we do this right, I hope Yoodli does to speaking what Grammarly has done to writing, what Duolingo has done to language learning, what Strava or Peloton or Apple Health have done to fitness.
Absolutely. I love it. And we got started 3 years ago with Yoodli being a helper, an AI tool for public speaking, but you have completely ricocheted to a different stratosphere now with AI role plays and practicing for all of these situations. Public speaking is one little piece of sliver of the pie of communication. Tell me when this happened and if you've changed your values of who you want to reach and why.
It's a good question. So the vision and the dream is identical. How do we help billions of people speak with confidence? That hasn't changed. I don't see that changing. When we launched Yoodli, it was a smart mirror, a private, judgment-free space for people to practice and get feedback without anybody knowing. And my thinking was public speaking sucks. 2 out of 3 people are so afraid of it, myself included. Can we find a way to help folks?
Yeah.
And then we heard from our users that they were using Yoodli for all kinds of applications to practice for an interview, an investor pitch, a crucial conversation like a salary negotiation or a hiring or firing decision, or even as a dating coach. And that's when I realized public speaking is just one form of communication.
Correct.
We are public speaking all the time, right now in a team meeting on stage, which is why we expanded the scope of Yoodli to be role plays for your interview, for your sales pitch, for your customer success pitch, for your online class. It doesn't matter. And public speaking is one sliver of that, but obviously closest to my heart.
Right. And again, it's one part. Minal here says, practicing talking to a key opinion leader as a medical science liaison. I think we don't, I'm sorry, we won't have that specific of an example for you today, but Dave Human, my friend and colleague who you know well as well, we do a lot of preparation for very brilliant scientists that someone says to them, so tell me about your research or tell me about your latest paper. They have to take something so incredibly complicated and dissect it down to very simple English. This would be perfect. But our friends, thank you for joining us today. Varun and I met before this meeting, and we thought of 2 situations that would be helpful to demonstrate what Yoodli does now. If you haven't seen Yoodli.ai in the past, you could go into the platform, and you could still do that now, Varun, right? You can stand, right? And you could say, I'm going to tell you about myself for 2 minutes. And it gives you great analytics and feedback on your tone of voice, on the conciseness of your message, on the energy, on so many analytics. But Varun, take us to the next level, sort of the next layer that Yoodli has created.
Totally. And by the way, I just saw one of the comments about speaking to scientists or presenting something that's academic. We have folks using Yoodli for all kinds of applications. So one of our biggest impact stories is folks from an engineering or science background practicing for a PhD dissertation, nervous about overusing technical jargon. How do you make this relatable to the audience? Yeah. They'll come and practice with Yoodli. One that's really, really close to my heart is there are doctors who are practicing difficult end-of-life conversations with Yoodli. Right? That's a life or death conversation. When you're talking to a patient or their family, you can't say, hey, here's your diagnosis, you're in really bad state. You've got to massage it. You can't overwhelm them with medical terms. You've got to keep it gentle while also building trust. And practicing for a conversation like that today is very, very hard.
Right.
And it's been one place that I've seen Yoodli take off in an industry I didn't even know existed.
Right. We have one of our learners, Brian. I'm a Boston biotech and life science reporter. I can certainly relate to a strong communication skill. And Brian, we at the university here, I'm at Indiana University, we do training for our scientists because they go to conferences and someone says, hey, Varun, what are you working on? He could go off talking about writing code and the person would be lost. So this is perfect to practice. And right, you could, Varun, write a rubric or sort of say, I'm trying to accomplish these 3 things, see if I'm doing it right. Yeah?
Totally. And in fact, Brian, to your point, we are working with many medical schools, pharma companies, etc., who need to train their learners on how to deliver the perfect pitch, right? Or if I'm an insurance agent, I cannot mess up what I'm saying. Or if I'm selling a medical device, I need to ensure that I'm saying the exact right talking points. Otherwise, I could be misleading the consumer. Tatiana, what's best? I can share my screen and show you the tool in action.
Yes. I wanted to show, Brian said the role of success of a scientist, not only in academic, but all parts of career development. Speaking of career, I also teach MBA students who are getting on the job market. And the one conversation we have all the time is how do we talk salary negotiation? Or when we are in the job, how do we ask for the next level of promotion? So buckle up, friends. Varun, you are sharing, or how are we doing this, Shelby?
Yep. Why don't I share my screen?
Okay. And I know we've turned mics on. So this is what Yoodli role play practice looks like. And everyone can have access to this up to 10 tries. Is that correct?
It's up to 5 tries, yeah. So if you go to www.yoodli.ai, you can try the tool for free, get feedback on up to 5 practice sessions, and then choose to subscribe if you like it. So here's an example. I work at a corporation. I'm really nervous. I need to ask my manager for a raise or for a promotion. I could literally go in and put any kind of conversation topic. So why you should buy my product, why you should go on a date with me, why I deserve this job. I can be as creative as I want with the conversation partner. In this case, I say I'm having a conversation with my manager and my manager is frustrated. I won't go into all of the details, but Yoodli works. Oh, carry on, Tatiana.
Oh, sorry, didn't we say your manager was, oh, I love you get the thumbs up. Your manager was short on time.
Yep, so we can set all of that up as well.
Yes.
You can configure how busy they are. You can add more context, and I'll show you how to in a second. Here, I'm quickly setting this up. I was saying you can work with most major languages. You can share your screen, and then Yoodli might ask you questions. Well, Varun, on slide 5, you said this, or your performance doc says X or Y. Let me just start this simple role play that I've set up.
Yep.
There we go.
Look, I've got a lot on my plate right now. If you're here about that promotion thing, make it quick. I've got 3 deadlines and a board meeting in an hour.
Hi, manager. Look, thank you for taking the time. I know you're really, really busy, but I just think it's unfair. I've been at the company for over 6 months. I'm funny, I'm charming, I'm beautiful. You promised me a promotion. Bob got a promotion. Susie got a promotion. This is unfair. I want $1 million and I want to be made senior vice president. Otherwise, I'm leaving. What do you think?
Listen, 6 months is barely enough time to learn where the coffee machine is. Bob and Susie have been here for 5 years and actually deliver results. And what's this about promises? I never promised you anything. $1 million, senior VP?
You get the gist of it, right? Like I could have gone on, but Yoodli understood my context, went back and forth with me.
And she was very, I don't want to say realistic. I mean, played along with you. So now what we're going to show you is what happens when I say to Varun, or he says, Tatiana, let me show you how I did. Because as his speaking coach, I'll say, were you speaking with conviction? Did you have 100 fillers? Did you sound conversational, or did you sound defensive? So show us what you get back.
Yep. So near realistic role play. Obviously, I hope nobody ever asks for a promotion like that, but I was doing that for comedic effect. Yoodli within seconds gives me a report with my transcript, with suggestions on how to be more concise and simplify what I've said to main points, feedback on what I've done well, what I've done poorly, follow-up questions. So Varun, why do you feel you deserve the promotion over Bob and Susie? My demeanor, and then feedback on my tone, pitch, intonation, body language. For instance, Varun, you started talking way too quickly. Were you nervous at the start? So the idea is, this is like my medical report. It gives me a quick list of statistics on how I've done, and then qualitative feedback around the content of what I'm doing. So a quick example, Tatiana, is I was confrontational and I was vague, and that can be off-putting. Like I completely agree.
For sure. Yeah. Can you click back on analytics? This is something you've added because it's conversations, and this is critical. I have a course on LinkedIn Learning on effective listening. If this went back and forth, quite often we really need to show that we are listening back to biotech, or to speaking with patients, or to be speaking to someone who's having a hard time with their listening, demonstrating we're listening. So it manages how much you talk, how much the other person talks, and tells you if you go on a monologue, or notes the questions you ask, correct?
Correct, yep. So in this case, Yoodli will tell me, Varun, you asked 2 questions. Right. And maybe I didn't need to ask a second one, like right is very leading question.
Sure.
But maybe for a conversation like this, you want to listen more than you speak.
Right.
That's feedback I've always received. but it's nice to get this from AI that's not judging me.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about, I could put this comment up, but there's a lot on the screen. Minal says, just because I'm curious, can this be used by FBI and such for practicing interviewing methods to get to the truth? But this also takes me to is the information we share here safe? Because you sell this or clients have this, right? So you take it to the enterprise level or the individual level. If I want to have membership to Yoodli, I pay $10 a month. Is that right?
Yeah. So, Meenal, to your question, yes, folks can use it for any kind of role play. In this case, it's interrogating people. I do not recommend that. That's not why I started Yoodli. But I will say it's been interesting to see folks make Yoodli their own. Like speech language pathologists are using us with their clients to help them with a stutter, or folks who have a stroke. We're not HIPAA compliant. I didn't start it with a medical application, but that's happening on its own. Some folks are using it for English language learning. Right? In the past, people might use Duolingo and practice cat, bat, rat, but now you can have a conversation. So in the same vein, the sky is the view, not the limit. Tatiana, to your question, super duper important. We started Yoodli as a private judgment-free space where only you practice, right? I'm insecure. I'm a founder. I have to come across as smart, but I don't want anyone to know I've been getting help, be it from Tatiana, from my AI coach, etc. So everything you do on Yoodli is private. Nobody can see your speech unless you explicitly share it with them for feedback. So if I were to share my screen super quickly, and I were to press share, and I were to send this to Tatiana,
I get it again, and I'm in the bucket of all the emails, as you can see. So I get it right in my email.
Yeah, and only now can she access it. But otherwise, everything I do on Yoodli is only accessible by me.
Right. Brian is back, our journalist, our medical journalist. We hope that we get some press out of this, Brian, because you're attending. But can you craft a targeted script to start practicing? Does the system offer? Can you help? So when I go into practice, I'll let Varun jump in. I can practice live, or I can have recorded something that I can feed into the system. Varun?
Yeah, great question, Brian. Again, I showed you a very simple version of the tool, but if I share my screen, let's say I were to create this manager performance review, for instance. When I'm creating this role play, I could create a goal of hitting certain talking points, which is essentially my script. And then Yoodli will give me feedback on how I did relative to those talking points. And while I'm speaking, like a teleprompter, it'll remind me, hit talking point 1, 2, or 3, or you forgot talking point 3 or 4. This is something, again, Brian, your point in the medical industry is really, really important. Make sure you say what your management team told you to say, as an example.
Right. So pivoting from asking for a raise, did you have something? Sorry, asking for asking for a raise or salary negotiations to moving into, at the end of a presentation, you're going to be peppered with questions. And as we know by watching shows like Shark Tank, it's more about the preparation for Q&A than it is for the pre-planned and pre-rehearsed presentation. So I think, Varun, I'm in the process of rewriting a course on presenting to senior executives. This is so appropriate. So I took the script and I said, if we were presenting this marketing, Sam, this marketing associate is presenting to the executives, and Sam is making all these talking points, Varun took it and fed it into the AI role play, because we need the AI to help us prepare for questions. What did you come up with for that, Varun?
So let me show you a quick example of how it might work, and then I can show you the end results.
Sure.
So again, really, really simple, right? So in this case, I might say why you should fund my proposal. And let's say I'm having this conversation with a senior manager. And in this case, let's say they are friendly, right? So I could go and configure the role play, but in this case, I did that in a few seconds.
Can you show me what other options are there? Are they snarky or really defensive? Or
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh,
so
good.
In fact, you can go professional, friendly. Are you seeing my screen right now?
No.
Well, let me
I hear what you say. I love that because it's so real. That is going to happen.
Yep. So professional, friendly, stressed, frustrated, reserved, poetic. If you have more ideas, our engineering team can build it out.
Yeah. I've faced a lot of those. Sure.
And what so there are two ways in which you can use Yoodli, right, Tatiana? This is called a quick conversation, where within seconds I can just give it a prompt and it'll go back and forth with me. So maybe we do this for a second, and then I'll show you the more detailed version, which is your question of, I want to feed it context. How will it run with me?
Sure.
So in this case,
Hi there. Thanks for coming in today. I understand you have a proposal you'd like to discuss. I've got about 15 minutes before my next meeting, so let's make this efficient.
you get the gist of it, right? Like,
Sure.
We don't need to go through the whole role play.
And Varun, you showed me that you can choose a male person, a female person, a different age group, or a different demographic, right?
Yep, indeed. So in that case, I gave it very quick perspective. But let's say I want to build a way more detailed scenario. So as an example, I can then come into this builder view and pick from a whole host of scenarios: cold sales call, manager performance review, pitch coaching, patient counseling, media training. So in this case, let's say I wanted to pitch a product to a potential customer, as an example.
Sure.
I could then use it and customize it, where I want to say, okay, AI, this is what I want to do. I give the AI a little bit of context, like you're the potential customer, pitch them, etc. I can create a goal, for instance, book a follow-up meeting, or smile, or hit talking points. Or in this case,
Sure.
I want to make sure my pitch is just 3 minutes, not longer.
Good.
Give the AI themes of questions, right? Maybe you're like, Varun, I don't want Yoodli to go on its own and ask random questions. I want Yoodli to ask questions about my pricing, my structure, my competition, etc. The piece that's most helpful, and this is what you were referring to, is I can go in and create any persona. So I can literally make the AI. So in this case, let's call it Tatiana.
Yeah.
Let's call this by CEO of Google.
Gotcha. I've been promoted.
You've been promoted. I can give you a voice and a personality. So let's say we could let's say pleasant and Indian English as an example.
Love it.
And then I can give really, really detailed things like, you are extremely curious about new technology. You love talking to junior. You get the gist of it. So literally you can give the persona so much context. You forgot to pick up your kids from school, so you're in a bad mood. You just fought with a spouse. You're skeptical of AI. And then the persona will go back and forth with you using the criteria that you have set up.
Yes. So how long does the role play take? And does the person interrupt you with questions? Can you build in interruptions?
Totally. You can get really, really creative, right? So on the quick conversation flow, 2 seconds, I just told him I need a raise, and then Yoodli went back and forth with me.
Right.
In this builder flow, you can get very creative. You can tell the AI to interrupt you. You can tell it to only ask you questions at the end. You can give it a time limit. Like you might say, I'm Tatiana and I only have 5 minutes for this call.
Right.
And then in the middle of the conversation, the AI will be like, hey, I have a hard stop in 1 minute.
Right. I love it. So what do you think? I'm sure you're getting a lot of customer feedback, and you have been diving into feedback from people that used it initially as a presentation preparation. What are the biggest blocks and barriers behaviorally that people have? I know from a speaking standpoint, watching video is like nails on the chalkboard. People don't want to see themselves, or they just don't want to practice to begin with. With technology, are there barriers, or do we take away some barriers?
No, it's a great question. I'll get into barriers. And there's a really good question in the chat, Tatiana, that I think is more tailored to you than me. Like, what do coaches think?
How can a smart and effective coach oversmart the system to make the best use of instead? Here's, Brian, what I do. I don't want to be saying the same things. It's easier if a credible AI that is well-trained says a few things, and then I can come in and I tell Brian, what were some highlights that you took away? What were the things that stood out to you? Because it could be a lot. And quite often I try to say, Brian, if we're going to work together, we're going to focus on 3 things. When you change behavior, and especially a skill that is a speaking skill, you want to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed. So I would have you practice 3 speeches and then send me your best one. And then we talk about what do you need to do to change. And we do exercises and practices, which I want to make sure, Varun, before you leave, you show us some of those drills and training drills. So that specifically is useful to get you to build up your practice and I would say your resilience to making this feel terribly uncomfortable.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, Brian, the people we started working with is speech coaches. Lots of people say, well, are you replacing speech coaches? What's your goal? In fact, it's the contrary. We are working with thousands of speech coaches where our pitch is, let's help you scale what you're doing. Rather than you focusing on the tactics of speech, let AI do that. You focus on vulnerability, authenticity, spontaneity, the pieces that AI can't do. Let's use AI to save you time, giving quick feedback, quantifying progress, etc. So if you go to our website, there are lots of examples of this. I do want to touch on what you said, Tatiana, which is what are our biggest challenges and blockers?
Yeah.
Behavior change, right? We are dealing with a deep-rooted human insecurity. People hate practicing. People avoid it like the plague. People hate the sound of their voice. They hate looking at themselves on camera. I have a pimple. I sound like this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to fully crack it. I mean, we've made it easier where it's like practice without your audio or your video. Or, maybe you don't even want to practice. You have a recording of yourself from the past. Why don't you upload it to Yoodli?
Yeah.
Yoodli can give you analysis from the past. Hey, why don't you practice with AI? Nobody's seeing it. Nobody will know this. It's yours. You can delete it after the fact. Despite all of that, right? The reason public speaking is the world's #1 fear, bigger than the fear of death, is because it's just deeply in our DNA that people don't want to do this. And our entire vision at Yoodli is, I think we can overcome it by making it fun and light and private and playful. Right. But we don't have all the answers. We are on our path, though.
And normalizing it. I want to add to that. You're right. After dying, public speaking is the second fear. And I found it's universal. It's global. It's not that in Singapore it's more accepted or it's more feared in Greece. That embarrassment is across the globe. I have found that accountability is what works best. When the board of your company says, fix this before this person stands up in front of us again, there is motivation for that person to fix it. Or you're not going to make it to CFO level for this company unless you can get in front of the press or in front of employees or reporters or analysts and really be impactful. I really do think so. For the everyday person, thank you, Patrice. For the everyday person, that may not be that they're not as hungry at the buffet, but every one of us gets there at some point. We talk about jobs.
I mean, without a doubt, right? Like, that's why I'm spending this much time. I think it's a massive problem. We all struggle with it, no matter how junior or senior, no matter what our native language is. We all know 20 people who are struggling with this, and I think we can help them.
Yes. I want it for you, before you leave, to go and do a pitch, which is why we have to get you out of here. We want to make sure to see some of the drills and games. And I'm looking at what Brian asked more. I don't have any of these, but can I get some practice sessions? I'll let you and Brian discuss that. Anyway, let's see what some of the interactive games are, which you've added one, Storyteller.
Yeah, the team's adding fun games all the time. Look, as I've said, public speaking is about whatever, giving the pitch and getting the feedback, but it's really about, can you think on your feet and can you laugh at yourself? Can you enjoy the process? So we've made these quick drills to help you be quick on your feet. I'll give you a few examples. This one's Spin a Yarn. Spin a Yarn is about, you get a bunch of questions, you get a bunch of words, you've got to include them in your story. It doesn't matter what you say, as long as you say it with confidence.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Level Monster. Let's start. We should 100% ban cars. They cause pollution. It's problematic. I'm the spokesman for the banning cars movement. In fact, I think there should be a limit on the amount of carbon dioxide that a car could get out. There should be a Senate confirmation that these car manufacturers could be compared to snakes. I don't believe that. And you get the gist of it, right?
I love it.
Story. And as
we played this live last time, and it was complete stress factor for me. Minal says, can it help with accent correction? Oh my goodness, I had a post on LinkedIn last week on accent bias that one of my students said they couldn't understand me. And Does something like this, honestly, if someone has an accent that's difficult to understand, can Udemy help coach them to become better?
Yes, Minal, before that, I will say I don't believe in the concept of accent correction. Like, I'm Indian, I have an accent. When I go to Starbucks, they always spell my name wrong. And I'm like, well, I'm Varun. It doesn't matter. I'm proud of it. Like, I'm not going to put Bob on my Starbucks cup. I don't think there's ever an accent that needs to be corrected. But if you're conscious of how one of us might sound and you want to practice, absolutely. A lot of non-native English speakers will use us and say, well, if the AI couldn't understand me, it's likely that someone here may not understand me, but I don't think any accent needs to be corrected per se.
Thank you for saying that. Let's finish with talking about what's next. Thank you for showing us all of the role play practices. I'm a huge proponent of practicing in order to, you don't show up to the basketball game and hope to win if you don't spend hours and hours on the court. How and what do you see 5 years from now? What am I going to pick up my phone and still keep this message? And what story do we tell when this happens?
Hopefully you don't share this message with too many more people.
I won't. Stay here.
But today, Yoodli is a role play simulator. Come and practice. Essentially, this is a batting cage for you to practice before a live game. You can come to Yoodli and you can upload your speeches today after the fact, which is watch the post-game highlight reel. A lot of where we are focusing is what about during the game? Yoodli lives on your watch. It's by your side. It's like your friend that's poking you under the table, being like, Varun, shut up. You're talking too quickly.
Yeah.
Or your joke is not landing. And it's private. It's judgment-free. Nobody knows I'm using it. It's giving me feedback. So a lot of what we're doing is making the role plays way more realistic, having it embed in your phone, your watch, your CRM, your Zoom call, StreamYard, LinkedIn, etc.
Wow.
But more than that, giving you in-the-moment feedback in a way that Grammarly corrects my writing for me when I'm writing. Can Yoodli help me with nudges when I'm speaking?
Right. It can come into meetings too, correct?
Correct. So that's another piece of the Yoodli functionality. We built a lot. What we are really focused on is the role play simulation piece,
right,
and trying to fix behavior change or encourage people to try behavior change.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. That was the absolute express dial into Yoodli AI role plays. And Varun, thank you for being with us. Go and smash your pitch next. Hope you have a good meeting. Don't leave, all of you. We say bye-bye to Varun, and thank you. I'll be in touch. I wanted to show all of you one more tool, because I promised not to just show one tool that LinkedIn just sent to me. And Shelby, I think we can walk through it. This is available when you watch or you're able to take LinkedIn courses, and you're able to take this opportunity. You can see here, you can have role play with AI powered coaching, similar to this, but also available. I'm not sure if you can do as much available. Let's do feedback on presentation skills. This is on LinkedIn Learning, friends. Feedback on presentation skills. And a scenario: colleague AI is struggling to prepare for a presentation. Provide empathetic feedback to help improve their presentation skills. Ask what areas they would like feedback on. Give concrete suggestions. So notes on the AI personality. I wanted to see if we started use supportive language. Let's practice it just like we did with Varun to see what feedback it gets. So Sam.
Hello, Shelby. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about my presentation.
Sam, you did a fantastic job with being prepared and showing a lot of energy. I would love to see you practice your concise message again. I'd heard it a little bit last week and it was not the same. Can you tell me what are the 3 main points you wanted for your audience to hear back? Oh, it didn't hear me, right? All right, a few challenges. So you heard AI Sam. I could have a conversation with AI Sam and I would tell it what I wanted to say, taking the time. So I can converse with AI Sam on my audio, because this is behind our wall and Shelby is sharing it. It didn't hear what I said. But I wanted to make sure that you know that this is, if your company has AI, LinkedIn Learning, that's available to you, or if you have access to LinkedIn Learning, this is now an option. And it's serendipitous that the week that I was having Varun over to the live to talk about AI tools and practice drills, we also got an email and talking about AI and practice, that this is available. So you can see that the planets are aligning. This is an important skill, and we want to make sure that you're prepared. So with this in mind, we're going to give you access to my LinkedIn platform and Varun's as well, in case you want to message with him. But before we say goodbye, Stronger has a Tumblr that we always like to share, and we always like to raffle. So we'd like for all of you who are here now to put hashtag Stronger, and we're going to do a quick spin of the wheel to see who won it. Right, Shelby? I'm doing it right. Last month, we forgot. We were so excited talking to Tom. So go ahead and in the chat, write hashtag Stronger. We'll feed this. We forgot to say it earlier. And it will be attached to your name. And we will just do a spin and mail it to you. Brian, I'm expecting for you to fill this in if we haven't lost you. That's it. Minal, you asked so many questions. Very nice. So today, as we're doing this, remember, he said, and I knew this would be the case, that practice is part of the behavioral barrier. It's difficult for us. We get an assignment, you get to speak in front of the board, and you spend hundreds of hours stressing out, but you don't actually put your feet down and start practicing to get better at this. So we want to make sure that we take you and close that gap of getting yourself in front of a group that matters. I am going to be filming next month, towards the end of the month, the presenting to senior executives, and so much of this applies. I can't wait to reference all of these tools. We're ready to spin our Theano is here all the way from Cyprus. Let's see who wins the tumbler. We will reach out to you and mail it to you. And Marley, yay! Marley, we're going to ask you for your address. In the meantime, thank you all for your energy. This has been recorded, so if you found this to be helpful, you can share it with a friend or a colleague. We will see you next month in March, where we talk about empathy and communicating with inclusive language and trying to help everyone around us feel connected. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.